and recording some audio files that will be downlinked later to the science team. Meanwhile, Victor Glover and Christina Cook were in the background serving as support. They were also timelined to enjoy a little bit of their midday meal. Victor Glover and Christina Cook were in the background serving as support. They were also timelined to enjoy a little bit of their midday meal. Victor Glover and Christina Cook were in the background serving as support. They were also timelined to enjoy a little bit of their Victor Glover and Christina Cook were in the background serving as support. They were also timelined to enjoy a little bit of their Victor Glover and Christina Cook were in the background serving as support. They were also timelined to enjoy a little bit of their Victor Glover and Christina Cook were in the background serving as support. They were also timelined to enjoy a little bit of their Victor Glover and Christina Cook were in the background serving as support. They were also timelined to enjoy a little bit of their Victor Glover and Christina Cook were in the background serving as support. They were also timelined to enjoy a little bit of their
Thank you.
Esto que estamos viendo aquí es el interior de la nave espacial en estos momentos. Y ya nos estamos acercando al punto en que se cortan las comunicaciones. Estamos a media hora de que se pierdan las comunicaciones.
Solar array camera view throughout the flyby, and the science team also plans to capture an occasional still photo with the solar array intermittently, perhaps one every 8 to 10 minutes. Still photos represent the highest resolution imagery from those GoPro cameras. So starting 5 minutes before Earthset and loss of signal, the science to include Earthset all the way through 5 minutes after Earthrise and acquisition of signal. To include Earthset, in order to capture these frequent photos, the solar array camera that we were streaming will need to switch to time-lapse photo mode. So during this time, the streaming video quality won't be as sharp as you have it right now, but we want to ensure that the science team captures the data swap period, but it looks like our astronauts, Victor Glover and Christina Cook, are already photographing the moon outside of those windows. Healthy and safe on the way to the moon, and the next target is Ohm Crater, and this is something that they have photographed previously during the flyby. This is a small, complex crater with a prominent ray system, and as referenced earlier, it's the size of the Eye of the Sahara. Previously during the flyby, this is a small. That Eye of the Sahara is a feature in Mauritania. And as referenced earlier, it's the size of the Eye of the Sahara. Seeing this crater more than once throughout the flyby allows the crew to photograph it at different lighting conditions. As referenced earlier, it's the size of the Eye of the Sahara. Seeing this crater more than once throughout the those different lighting conditions help expose different portions of the target and can help the science team learn a little bit more about how it formed and what it is today.
Vamos a menos de media hora que se corten las comunicaciones porque la nave pasa detrás de la Luna. Estamos en un extremo izquierdo viendo el primer plano en la parte extrema izquierda, la nave Orion. Ahora cambiamos la imagen. Este es el interior de la cápsula. Los astronautas apagan las luces para tener una mejor visión del exterior. Están tomando fotografías de puntos interesantes de la Luna para próximos alunizajes. Los alunizajes tendrán lugar a partir de Artemis 4 en 2028, en donde se tienen planeados 2 alunizajes, uno a comienzos de año y otro a fin de año, Artemis 4 y Artemis 5. Vamos a mantener la transmisión hasta el bloqueo de comunicaciones y 45 minutos después van a tener nuevamente contacto con los astronautas. Estaremos esperando también ese contacto. Y mientras la NASA siga enviando señal en directo, estaremos manteniendo esta transmisión. En un día histórico en donde la humanidad vuelve a la Luna.
Another 6 minutes or so before they move into a discussion of the limb. Now, the science team has asked for a science sit rep or situation report during that time, so we hope to hear calls from the crew on what they are observing.
Lo que estamos viendo en la imagen de la izquierda pertenece al lado oculto de la Luna, al lado que no vemos nosotros nunca, por la posición de giro de la Luna alrededor de la Tierra.
If you've been following along, at the start of the day, we did have much more of the moon visible. And even just an hour or so ago, we could see about half of the moon. We are now continuing to see more of the far side and that darkness where the moon is not reflecting light from the sun. Earlier, we were also able to see some of those darker portions, that old lava flow that we often see on the near side of the moon and that we can all see from Earth. That has mostly gone away. We are now just seeing very little of Orion Tall. That's down to the bottom right of the moon. You can see just a small dark portion near the limb. We are now about 18 minutes away from loss of signal with the Orion crew. Again, we use the Deep Space Network to communicate with the crew members when they are this far from Earth. This is the first mission since Apollo when we have had humans on the Deep Space Network. As you recently heard Capcom Jenny Gibbons call to the crew, we expect their closest approach to the moon to be at MET, or mission elapsed time, of 5 days, 25 minutes, and 34 seconds. At that time, their altitude would be 4,067 statute miles above the Earth's surface. Just over 2 minutes later, they will reach their maximum distance from Earth at mission elapsed time 5 minutes, 5 days, 27 minutes, and 39 seconds. The altitude at that time would be 252,756 statute miles. These are our latest numbers, and we'll make sure to verify and confirm those once those milestones have been achieved. Obviously, we will be without communication to the spacecraft at that time, so once we regain communication, we will make sure to find out those numbers and report those to you.
Vale. Aló, aló. Bien, estábamos probando sonido ahí, se nos había caído la batería del micrófono. Lo que estamos viendo aquí es la parte de la cabina de la nave Orión. Ahí vemos a los astronautas enfocándose hacia la ventana. Ya vimos que encendieron alguna luz. En cualquier momento esta señal se va a ir porque se van a interrumpir las comunicaciones. Ahora vemos en la otra imagen, el otro recuadro, la luna. Esa es la parte oscura de la luna. Bueno, la parte oscura no, la parte oculta. La parte oculta, la que nosotros no vemos, por la posición de la órbita de la Luna alrededor de la Tierra. Ya queda poco menos de 20 minutos para que se interrumpan las comunicaciones. Pensábamos que se viera la Tierra y la Luna y que se viera la Tierra cuando se iba perdiendo en el horizonte lunar. Pero según el ángulo de las cámaras parece que no vamos a tener eso.
Checking in on the lunar targeting package, the crew is now in their discussion of the limb, seeing the limb of the moon, that illuminated part. Currently at the windows taking photos and making annotations are Victor Glover and Christina Cook. We are expecting loss of signal in about 13 minutes. We will regain that signal with the crew about 40 minutes later.
Acaban de indicar que están esperando la pérdida de señal y que esta señal se reanudará en 40 minutos a partir del momento en que se pierdan las comunicaciones por aquí. Momento de máximo acercamiento antes de que se pierdan las comunicaciones. Mire cómo está ya la luna de enorme, que ya no alcanza a cubrir todo el ángulo de la cámara. Cuando comenzamos la transmisión, prácticamente la luna era una octava parte del tamaño del recuadro de la pantalla.
Window 1 looks like there might be a shroud removed.
Sigue las comunicaciones entre los astronautas y el centro de control relacionadas con las fotografías que están tomando y con lo que van a hacer ahora detrás de la Luna cuando estén las comunicaciones interrumpidas por 45 minutos.
Copy. That makes a lot of sense to us, Jeremy. I want to remind you, coming up on this LOS, it will take sit reps in the blind, and as more and more of the moon is in darkness, we will take any report you have on impact flashes.
Imágenes del interior de la cápsula, ahora imágenes de directo desde una de las cámaras que están en los paneles solares de la nave Integrity. Ya estamos prácticamente detrás de la Luna, por así decirlo. Definitivamente no pudimos ver la imagen que queríamos. Sí, ahí apareció. Ahí apareció la imagen que queríamos ver. La Tierra ocultándose detrás del horizonte de la Luna. Ahí está. Ahí está en estos momentos. Cambiaron el ángulo, aunque la definición no es la mejor, pero es una imagen histórica. Miren cómo se acerca. Ahí estamos viendo la Tierra acercándose al horizonte de la Luna. Y a no dudar lo que vamos a tener también la salida de la Tierra al otro lado cuando la nave pase por detrás de la cara oculta de la Luna. Cuando la Tierra se oculte, se cortan las comunicaciones. Esta es una vista en vivo, en directo, desde las cercanías de la Luna, a solo 25.000 kilómetros de la superficie de la Luna. Pasarán en su punto más cercano a 17.000 kilómetros del suelo lunar. Eso ocurrirá cuando estén detrás de la Luna, que no tengamos comunicaciones con la astronave. Fantástica, fantástica vista.
Integrity Houston, you are 6 minutes from your 40-minute lunar flyby LOS. From all of us, it's a privilege to witness you carrying the fire past our farthest reach. Thank you. Godspeed.
Thank you for that, Jenny. And thank you to all of you for allowing us the immense privilege to be on this journey together. It's quite amazing. And as we go on this journey, thinking about the NASA mission to explore the unknown in air and space, to innovate for the benefit of humanity, and to inspire the world through discovery. And as you've gone along on this journey with us, hopefully we're doing just those things. And as we get close to the nearest point to the moon and farthest point from Earth, as we continue to unlock the mysteries of the cosmos, I would like to remind you of one of the most important mysteries there on Earth, and that's love. Christ said in response to what was the greatest command, that it was to love God with all that you are. And he also, being a great teacher, said the second is equal to it, and that is to love your neighbor as yourself. And so, as we prepare to go out of radio communication, we're still to feel your love from Earth, and to all of you down there on Earth and around Earth, we love you from the moon.
Houston copies. We'll see you on the other side.
We will see you on the other side.
Poignant words from NASA astronaut Victor Glover, and a little bit of a love letter from the other side of the moon all the way to Earth. Glover touching on the teachings of Jesus.
Nunca antes viste por ojos humanos. Por el ángulo yo pensaba que no podían lograrlo, pero cambiaron a otra cámara que tiene un ángulo más amplio y aquí lo estamos viendo. El ocultamiento de la Tierra detrás de otro mundo. En Apolo 8 no pudimos verlo. En Apolo 8 tomaron esa foto icónica de la salida de la Tierra, de una Tierra que se veía sin parcelas y sin fronteras. Y nuevamente la tenemos aquí ahora nosotros en vivo y en directo, desde los astronautas de Artemis 2. Vamos a grabar este momento histórico, el ocultamiento de la Tierra detrás de la Luna. Cuando son las 5:42 de la tarde, hora de Colombia, y las comunicaciones se van a interrumpir por entre 45 y 52 minutos, cuando la Tierra deje de verse desde la nave
Just about
Orion.
a minute and a half now until we lose communication with the astronauts aboard Orion on the Artemis 2 mission. Now, 5 days and 6 minutes since their launch on April 1st. Again, we'll be out of communication for about 40 minutes. And this really beautiful view of a crescent moon and a crescent Earth. How great thou art.
Ya se cortaron, se acaban de cortar las comunicaciones. Se acaban de cortar las comunicaciones por el... Ah, no. Sí, lo perdimos ya. Ya perdimos la comunicación y ese es el centro de control.
30 seconds now until we expect loss of signal.
Bueno, ya este es un render de la NASA que pone allí. Y esta es la confirmación. Están confirmando del centro de control la pérdida de comunicaciones por 40 minutos de la astronave. Vamos a ver con qué imagen nos transmite desde el otro lado de la Luna cuando reaparezca en unos 40 minutos. Más o menos a las 6:25 de la tarde. Mientras tanto, mantendremos las imágenes que nos transmite directo NASA desde el centro de control en Houston, Texas.
We even got to see this team in action as they were helping the astronauts identify some of the features they were seeing on the moon but not expecting.
Estaremos atentos a la reanudación de las comunicaciones ya en unos 37 minutos.
Preparing humanity for a long-term lunar presence and future journeys to Mars. Enabling communication and navigation for this test flight are NASA's Near Space Network and Deep Space Network. With antennas around the world and a fleet of relay satellites, the networks will deliver vital data to and from Earth through all phases of the mission. The networks are seamlessly integrated at NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas, where Mission Control coordinates the network handovers. These transfers represent a delicate dance between the two networks, exchanging support as the mission shoots toward the moon. On the launch pad and during their early orbit phases, NASA's Orion spacecraft and Space Launch System rocket will rely on communications and tracking services from the Near Space Network. After its translunar injection burn, the Deep Space Network's global array of antennas will serve as Orion's primary communication support during lunar orbit. As the mission journeys farther into space and away from Earth, signal strength weakens and bandwidth is conserved for crew communications. The astronauts will have a near constant connection to Earth, ensuring their safety on a journey farther into space than ever before. We say near constant because as Orion goes behind the moon, a planned loss in communications will occur. The Deep Space Network will be standing by to reacquire the signal as Orion reappears. The Artemis II mission also provides an opportunity to test new capabilities. Using laser links, NASA will periodically transmit Orion data to showcase the benefits laser communications could have for future human spaceflight missions. The data from Orion, sent by radio signals or laser links, is massive. The mission is gathering images, data, and video, while also generating details about mission health and crew voice files. All of that data gets processed here on Earth, where systems compress it for efficiency. In the future, we'll upgrade these systems on Earth so that image and video clarity improve with each moon mission. With the Artemis II test flight, we're evaluating the communications infrastructure that will help carry us into the future as we explore the moon and journey forward to Mars.
We are now about 33 minutes until we expect to regain communications with the astronauts aboard Orion. And in the meantime, I've got Dr. Kelsey Young, Artemis Science Flight Operations Lead, here with us. Thanks for joining me, Kelsey.
Thanks for having me. This is such an exciting day.
Oh, no kidding. It has been so cool to hear you communicating directly with the crew. And I know that you have been preparing for this for years, so I am so excited for you and for your team. So just to get into that background a little bit, tell me about your background and what you've been doing on console.
My background is as a field geologist. Actually, I studied impact cratering in the field for my PhD, so all these descriptions of impact craters have me just absolutely swooning. How I got into this, though, is, during my PhD, I got an internship at NASA and ultimately never left to integrate science into flight operations. So we developed the Science Officer Console, for which this is the first mission we're supporting. We developed the Science Evaluation Room that's right upstairs, and so it's so gratifying to see this operation structure come to fruition, especially on a day like today.
I would have to imagine so. And we've got a great view of the Science Evaluation Room right now. Is there anything that has stood out to your team so far?
Absolutely. So as you might have heard in some of the press briefings and content that, we've been putting out, color and albedo were really exciting targets for us. We've heard several amazing color descriptions so far. Just to highlight maybe one of them, we heard about greenish and brownish hues near Aristarchus, which is actually a feature that we can see here from the
Ese es el centro de evaluación de NASA. Están esperando mientras se reanudan las comunicaciones. Y ahí, vean, esos equipos de televisión deben ser los de NASA o los de Disney, que estarán haciendo algún documental para verlo posteriormente. Ojalá sea interesante, en alta definición y todas esas cosas, ya lo esperaremos. Estas son las presentadoras de NASA, de la transmisión de NASA en el día de hoy. Están pues rellenando el espacio esto de ya 30 minutos que hace falta para que se reanuden las comunicaciones con la nave. Nosotros también seguimos a la espera. Voy a mutearme aquí para tomar algo y regresamos antes de que se reanuden las comunicaciones.
and that, Apollo 8 brought us such amazing images from. But then we start to get into describing the Terminator, as well as looking for things like lofted dust, which tell us about the modern lunar environment. Then the vehicle's going to orient away from the moon for an hour and then pivot back for the eclipse observations, which is a whole different set of science observations that we're really looking forward to.
It's kind of nice that the crew will get a little break in there, because they have been hitting it hard today with photos and videos and annotations. What are you hoping that the crew sees coming up? Is it that lunar dust?
Oh my goodness, that's a hard question to answer. I mean, we've already gotten such great descriptions. I mean, the Terminator seems to just be like one of their favorite things to look at and describe. So I feel like, that was something we were looking forward to. I feel like we've really gotten some great descriptions. So absolutely, I'm looking to the human moment of Earthrise. Lofted dust is an exciting one, and lofted dust will be a target for them in the right around the time of Earthrise, but again in the eclipse period. So I'm really looking forward to seeing. I mean, they've already highlighted just in the course of their flyby so far how the moon has changed, and this is going to be even more dramatic change to go from their end of this kind of lunar illuminated piece of the flyby into the eclipse time frame. And I can tell you they're going to be experiencing a very different moon during that time, and I can't wait to hear what their observations are.
Yeah, that's absolutely fascinating, and what an privilege that we get to do that on this mission, because that's not always the case. If we had launched on a different day other than April 1st or 2nd, we wouldn't have gotten to see that eclipse. Is that right?
That's correct. April 1st and 2nd. I will say, I was asked a lot in the weeks leading up to the launch, well, what's your favorite day? And my answer truly was, there is no bad day to launch to the moon. We were going to get great science out of it no matter what, but it's a really neat opportunity to, bring the sun into the picture, bring different planetary bodies into the picture while still literally keeping the moon in center stage.
Fascinating. So what differences are we looking for at each site? We're hearing a lot of different terms. We're looking at craters. We're looking at mare. What are the differences that you're hoping to see?
We do have, as you highlight, kind of different prompts for each target. That's what they're looking at in their lunar targeting plan, which I know you've been showing. And we have even different prompts for the person with the really long lens on the camera versus the people with the unaided eye. And you've heard the crew talk about, oh my goodness, when I go from one to the other, I can really detect different nuances. And that's something that we experienced in simulations, but hearing them actually, see it for real has been really gratifying. But we're looking for different things based on the target. Sometimes we're looking for color. Sometimes we're looking for texture. For the Terminator, we're looking at kind of what texture and morphologies pop out to you and what kind of diversity you see along the Terminator. You've heard, Victor especially make some comments about future impacts for exploration. So already I think that their descriptions in this first part of the flyby have told us something scientifically, but also about future surface missions.
Well, it was so interesting to hear Victor talking about he was imagining in his mind's eye being down on the surface and walking around. That was very cool to hear. And when we're thinking about targets, I know some of them are determined based on the launch day because that determines the lunar illumination. So the ones that we're looking at today, how and why were these selected?
Such a wonderful question. This really gets at at the heart of some of our really highest priority science questions. Illumination conditions is a big one, right? So of course we need the targets that we're interested on the lunar feature to be illuminated by the sun in order to view them, but the timing in which they see them during the flyby enables us to ask different questions. So you heard in the pre-flyby crew conference talking about, well, the same pair, Reed and Jeremy, will get to actually look at Glushko crater twice, and that looking at it from different illumination angles allows us to understand that feature better and connect color and albedo with topography and morphology. Then you have other craters where you want to look at it with the sun shining on it obliquely versus straight on, and that tells you something different about the scientific objective that drove the target being on the targeting plan in the first place.
We've talked a little bit with the viewers today about what the crew is able to capture in this short time frame of those craters in different lighting conditions. Could take years for something robotic to be able to do based on attitude maneuvers and where the sun is at. So can you just talk a little bit about the importance of having both the robotic operation and having the crew?
Absolutely. We definitely don't want to minimize the impact of orbiting spacecraft. Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter is the one that's often referenced. Data from LRO and its payloads have really been instrumental in getting us, frankly, to this point for Artemis 2 and future missions. But the human experience, the crew observations that we've already been hearing about, it is such a perfect complement to the orbiting spacecraft data because they are able to have this unique perspective. They are far enough away where they can make these contextual observations. You've already heard it. How many times have we heard the crew and their science sit reps say, if I track this feature from all the way up here in the northern hemisphere down to the southern hemisphere, here are comparisons I can make. That right there is not something we had the ability to do with the Apollo missions, and it allows just literally in the blink of an eye to synthesize observations that it would take, a really significant effort to coordinate with different orbiting platforms, and they're making it like that.
Wow. It has been very, very exciting to hear all of their calls so far. And so I've heard they were able to capture every single target so far too. Is that correct?
I think that's correct. And I think it's important also to remember that, and I know the science team is anxiously awaiting this, we've been hearing from the crew members who are not at the forward windows, right? Those crew who are, really in the thick of the observations, they are recording minutes-long observations per target on their crew tablets. We will be getting those down starting here in a couple hours, and that's going to contain really meaty science information that we haven't heard live yet, and that's going to form the basis of my conversation with them tomorrow morning, where we're going to have a really deep dive into the science and absolutely nerd out about what they were able to do today. One of the most gratifying things for me today is hearing multiple crew members say, thank you for putting the discussion times in the targeting plan, because when we have had the ability to put multiple brains on a problem, we have elevated each other. And I'm looking forward to them, sleeping on it overnight and then us actually being able to really, truly have an elevated science discourse tomorrow.
Well, we're looking forward to it too, and I cannot wait to hear everything that you guys get to learn overnight from some of those audio recordings and just everything that they'll be able to share tomorrow. So, Kelsey, I know you are very busy. You've done a great job today, and thank you so much for joining us for this interview.
Thanks for having me. It's such an exciting day.
We are now expecting acquisition of signal in about 24 minutes. As a reminder, the Orion spacecraft has flown around the other side of the moon, where they are out of contact with our deep space network. And we just heard confirmation here in Mission Control Houston that we have reached the closest point of our destination to the moon at MET 5 days, 25 minutes, and 34 seconds. And we anticipate the spacecraft's altitude is approximately 4,067 statute miles above the moon. We're continuing to track what the crew is doing while around the other side of the moon. They are continuing to take pictures of the moon, the Earth now out of sight. What they are in right now is a crew choice event. The science team has encouraged them to find interesting features on the surface, to take photos of those, and describe why they were interesting. Something else that they'll be looking toward next, just momentarily, will be impact flashes. They've got a few minutes allotted to look at the darkest portions of the moon. They're interested in short-lived flashes on the lunar surface because these would be caused by impact bombardment. After their impact flash targeting, the team is interested in if the crew can see lofted lunar dust. This would only be visible just before Earthrise. Now 20 minutes until we expect to regain communications with integrity and the astronauts for Artemis 2. We're live in Mission Control Houston at NASA's Johnson Space Center, but there's a team over 750 miles away also monitoring today's operations. And of course, just like us, they are in LOS, or loss of signal, with the spacecraft. This is LUCA, the Lunar Utilization Control Area, and it's joined by LISA, the Lander Engineering Support Area, which are twin control rooms that will support missions and operations in lunar orbit or on the moon's surface in real time at NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama. The LUCA and LISA are right next to each other and just a short walk away from the SLS Engineering Support Center, which is used during launch, and the POIC, where science on the International Space Station is monitored. LUCA primarily supports Artemis science operations, while LISA will provide engineering support for landing astronauts on the moon. During this mission, Artemis 2, teams in the LUCA will use the facility to support first-of-its-kind science operations to better understand the deep space effects of microgravity and radiation on the crew's physiology, immune systems, and ability to complete various tasks. The data from these science operations will inform future crewed flights to the moon. For future crewed missions to the moon, members of the NASA Human Landing System Mission Insights Support Team, a group of engineers, safety leads, flight operations experts, and technical authorities, will work in the LISA. There, they will monitor lander systems in real time and be involved in key decision-making processes throughout the mission. Teams are using the LISA during Artemis 2 to observe mission operations and using the opportunity to inform and prepare for future crewed landings to the moon's surface. We now expect to regain communications with the astronauts aboard Orion in about 17 minutes. In the meantime, a little overview of how our crew members flying by the lunar far side at an altitude of between 4,000 and 9,000 miles are testing the capabilities of the Orion capsule. Artemis 2 visualization lead Ernie Wright has simulated views of the flyby using detailed topographic maps of the lunar terrain and photorealistic lighting scenarios. The Artemis 2 crew members have been using these visualizations to prepare for this historic mission, which is paving the way for future exploration of the moon's surface and beyond.
So the most exciting thing to me about Artemis 2 is just the return to the moon. We haven't been there in 50 years. Human eyes are going to see parts of the moon that haven't been seen by anyone before. It also recommits us to exploring the solar system in a way that we haven't in a long time. And I think it provides an opportunity for younger generations to understand the excitement of doing that kind of exploration. Artemis is our return to the moon after 50 years. The emphasis of Artemis is going to be, first of all, science, but second of all, learning to sustain a presence on another world. First on the moon, but we're hoping that that's a stepping stone to Mars and other destinations in the solar system eventually. Artemis 2 will be a flyby mission. It's not going to land. We're testing all of the technology that we've created for flying to the moon since Apollo. A lot of systems have been modernized, and we need to make sure that all of those work. The astronauts will be looking out the window at parts of the moon that have never been seen by human eyes before. They will be flying by the moon at an altitude that's much higher than Apollo's orbits. And so they will see the entire disk of the moon, including areas that are closer to both the North and South Pole that astronauts from Apollo never saw. All of that depends on the lighting, which we really won't know until launch day, but we can practice with different lighting scenarios. It's hard for people to sort of picture that in their mind. If you can make a visualization of it, show them a movie, that helps everybody choose the targets and also practice aiming at those targets. The astronauts have actually been looking at these visualizations through the lens of the camera and practicing aiming at the various targets. This is a map of the surface of the moon, obviously, but it shows what the Apollo astronauts could see in sunlight while they were in orbit. The brighter parts are the parts that they could see. The darker parts, like this entire area here and places that are farther north and south, are places that they couldn't see in sunlight, either because it was nighttime there or because it was beyond the horizon of the astronauts. All of the Apollo flights orbited the moon at a distance of about 110 kilometers. Because the astronauts were flying at such a low altitude, their horizon was actually quite close, and they couldn't see the North and South poles. And this whole area over here was not in sunlight at the time. And it includes this amazing impact feature here called Orion. Orion is a very large impact feature. It's about 650 kilometers wide. It's got multiple rings. These are rings that form like ripples in a pond from the impact, but of course it's on a huge scale. The middle of Orion has that sort of dark basalt lava covering it, like the dark spots that we see on the near side. It's one of the biggest ones that's more on the far side than the near. So seeing it with human eyes and sort of picking out features that maybe you don't even see in robotic cameras is an important goal for the mission.
This live view in the Science Evaluation Room, or the SIR, here at Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas, just down the hall from where we're at in the Artemis Mission Control Room. Teams continuing to monitor the flyby. The crew continues their observations of the moon, even though they are out of touch with Earth. We expect to hear from them in 12 minutes and 26 seconds. Again, this is approximately 40 minutes loss of signal while they are out of reach of the deep space network. Right now, they are imaging or attempting to image lofted lunar dust. Throughout our coverage, we've talked a lot about the science and engineering behind today's lunar flyby, but we also spoke to the crew about what the moon means to them and how they see its place in human history.
I remember being a little kid lying in bed at night and just looking out at the moon and whatever phase it was in, and I was thinking, man, my friends that live like 20 miles away, they can probably look out and see that same exact moon. And then when I was in the Navy and I would look out at the moon and I'd be halfway around the planet, and I would think, man, my brother can see that moon where he is, and he's halfway around the planet from where I am. And it's a connection of life on Earth. We can all look up and see that moon.
It represents history. It is a witness plate. Everything that's ever happened to the moon is still written on the moon. There's no processes of wind or change in the Earth, geologic processes like we have here that change it. And something that's been telling and can read out the story of its own evolution, there's something beautiful about that.
I've also learned from my indigenous mentors that they refer to the moon as Grandmother Moon. So you've probably heard of Mother Earth. They use Grandmother Moon because Grandmother Moon is responsible for the water in their community. The grandmothers, sort of protect the water source, just like the moon moves the water around the planet, affects the tides. It's something that represents something different for each individual culture around the planet. And that's really neat because we all share that same moon in the night sky.
We all have seen the same side of the moon in different lighting conditions our whole lives. And so it seems very familiar to us, but it's also kind of unknown. When we get up close, some of the imagery that we'll get to describe and to share with people will be very unique. And that nature, both of those things being true about this one entity that we all know, just is really special.
It's just the epitome of a symbol of both something that's in each of our hearts, but that's also represents exploration and reaching.
You're looking at a live view inside Artemis Mission Control here at Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. We are currently out of contact with the Artemis II crew. This was a planned, or not really a planned, but a tracked loss of signal that occurs when the crew flies behind the moon. We use the Deep Space Network to communicate with the crew, and when they are behind the moon, they are out of reach of that Deep Space Network. And when you consider our nonstop communications during the time in which we live, this is even more striking. For the Artemis II crew, they're only currently communicating with each other. Now, we expect to regain those communications in under 9 minutes from now, and we also are hopeful for a view of Earthrise. Despite being out of communication, the crew is continuously capturing imagery of their predetermined lunar targets. Now about 7 minutes, 25 seconds until we anticipate regaining communications with the Artemis II crew aboard Orion. In the meantime, Artemis II lunar science deputy lead Marie Henderson is trained these astronauts to capture and document their views of the lunar surface for all of us to enjoy back here on Earth.
I cannot wait to hear their voices when they get to the far side of the moon and I can hear them talk about seeing the moon out their window. I try to imagine it now and just like tear up thinking about it. Ooh, now I gotta hold on a second. We have human eyeballs connected to wonderfully smart brains our astronaut friends have. They are going to be able to observe the moon in multiple different ways. They can use their eyes, they'll look through their camera and snap pictures, and just looking out the window getting that human experience. But during Apollo, the astronauts were so much closer to the lunar surface. Our astronauts are going to be doing a flyby at a higher altitude, so they're going to be able to see the whole moon as a lunar disk on the lunar far side. That's a brand new, unique perspective that humans haven't been able to look at before. We are doing a lot of lunar geography training with them. They have study sessions and quizzes they can do that are assigned to them. You know, even if you're an astronaut, you still get homework. We actually get in the mock-up. In that enclosed physical space, we have to think through the hardware that they have, the cameras, the computers, their microphones to make these observations. There's 4 windows up front. Through one of those windows, one of our astronauts will be using a Nikon D5 camera with an 80 to 400 millimeter lens. So something that allows them to zoom in really far and actually take more detailed observations of the surface. It's almost like looking through a pair of binoculars as well. It's just like being a geologist out in the field. They're telling us what they're seeing, looking for colors, textures, different morphologies, and comparing the region that we're having them look at to the regions that are around them. We have a science team that is planning the targets that are going to be observed, putting them all on the timeline of how they're going to be observed, and then taking the first look at the data when it comes down. The Apollo astronauts were only on the moon for 300 hours total, and they only went to the equator. That's like going to places that were safer landing sites, and they only saw so little, 300 hours total. And so we have so much more to explore and so much more to learn, and we are the beginning of the next generation that gets to start being a part of these discoveries.
We are now 4 minutes and 28 seconds until we expect to regain communications with the astronauts flying aboard Orion on the Artemis 2 mission. They are now flying behind the moon. While behind the moon at an MET, or mission elapsed time, of 5 days, 25 minutes, and 34 seconds, we expect this was the point in which they made their closest approach, 4,067 statute miles above the lunar surface. We're live in the Artemis Mission Control Room in Houston, but we are not the only room monitoring today's flyby. As you can see, this is the SIR, the Science Evaluation Room. It's in the same building and just down the hall. It's a multidisciplinary science team supporting the Artemis 2 crew in real time, including experts in lunar geology, impact cratering, volcanism, polar science, imaging, and visualization. You can see the SIR here. That's the Science Evaluation Room. It's embedded within Mission Control to provide science input during live operations like what we see today. But additionally, the Science Mission Operations Room is a back room that processes data, evaluates imagery, and supports rapid analysis. We also have our science officer, Kelsey Young, here on console today. She's serving as the primary interface between the science team and the flight controllers, ensuring science priorities are represented during mission execution. Coming up on 1 minute and 36 seconds until we contact Orion. Meanwhile, aboard the spacecraft, the crew has continued executing their lunar flyby tasks. As we discussed earlier today, these activities have been precisely timelined, and this is the fourth of 5 blocks of time during which the crew will be observing the moon from Orion.
1 minuto 5 segundos para la reanudación de las comunicaciones. Houston lo va a llamar. Va a escucharse algo así como Houston Integrity, we are copy. Algo así. Vamos a esperar a ver. Faltan ahora 50 segundos. Seguimos a la espera. 40 segundos para la reanudación de las comunicaciones.
Connected to their PCDs, and those audio recordings are being sent to the science team tonight. We are not hearing those live. However, we have been hearing quite a lot of great descriptions from the crew who have been serving as the support. Right now, the support team members are Reed Wiseman and Jeremy Hansen. Those team members are providing science sit reps, situation reports, calling down a few times each hour to discuss what they're observing. And even though we're out of contact with them right now, they are still conducting those science sit reps as they'll be available once they come back around the moon. The situation reports include how the crew is positioned, any missed targets, or anything unexpected they saw. They're also including lunar target descriptions, any hardware issues, and their emotions and reactions. Again, we are standing by to acquire signal from the Orion spacecraft.
Estamos esperando las comunicaciones, a ver. Parece que ahí está la señal. ¿Aparece y desaparece? No, todavía no. Seguimos a la espera. Ya tenemos 1 minuto 10 en que se debieron reanudar las comunicaciones.
We're in the Artemis Mission Control Room at Johnson Space Center, getting our preliminary contact with Orion, that acquisition of signal coming after a 40-minute loss of signal, during which the crew was flying behind the moon, out of contact with anyone on Earth.
Está indicando lo de comunicaciones, que hace 40 minutos se perdió la señal y que hace 1 minuto debió reanudarse la señal. Y están todos a la espera. Tenemos también los micrófonos abiertos para captar cualquier señal.
We are getting our first views from Orion after the loss of signal. Orion has come back around the other side of the moon, and that little crescent that you see is Earth, over 252,000 miles away. With this transit complete, lunar flyby continues, but Orion has also technically begun its journey home. Right now, the crew are getting a few moments to enjoy and
Bueno, lo que estamos viendo es ya una señal directa desde la cápsula. No tenemos todavía comunicación de audio con los astronautas, pero ya la cápsula salió de su periodo de blackout detrás de la Luna. Y esta es la imagen que estamos viendo allí, la Tierra, ahí al fondo, a más de 405.000 kilómetros de distancia, y en primer plano la parte delantera de la cápsula Integrity.
This view from inside the Orion spacecraft, all 4 astronauts now back on the other side of the moon and in contact with us on Earth.
Ahí tenemos a los astronautas.
Their tasks for lunar flyby did not stop as they went behind the
Astronautas
moon and
dentro de la
out of
cápsula.
contact with us. We anticipate during that time
También.
they were attempting to image some impact flashes, short-lived flashes on the lunar surface, which would be caused by
Los 4 astronautas siguen tomando fotos.
lunar dust. Right now, of course, they are getting pictures of Earthrise. After this target, they will get a short observation break. It's about an hour long, actually.
Los astronautas han reaparecido al otro lado de la Luna y están iniciando su retorno libre, están iniciando su camino a casa a partir de ahora, mientras el sobrevuelo a la Luna continúa. Y a partir de ahora comienzan a alejarse de la superficie lunar. De hecho, ya comenzaron a alejarse porque el punto más cercano de 17.000 kilómetros de distancia de la superficie ocurrió en el lado oculto de la Luna.
And that is true. We will explore, we will build ships, we will visit again. We will construct science outposts, we will drive rovers, we will do radio astronomy, we will found companies, we will bolster industry, we will inspire. But ultimately, we will always choose Earth, we will always choose each other.
Integrity from Earth, our single system, fragile and interconnected, we copy. Those of us that can are looking back.
We are happy to say we copy.
Por unos instantes encendieron las luces dentro de la cabina, ahora las volvieron a disminuir, dejaron una sola luz ahí al fondo. Y decía Cristina Couch que estaban muy felices de lo que estaban haciendo, de que con eso pensaban inspirar a nuevas generaciones para que en el futuro pueda haber más de este tipo de investigaciones.
We do not leave Earth, we choose it. The translunar injection burn served as not only what put them on this trajectory to fly around the moon, but what also committed them to splashing down in the Pacific Ocean on flight day 10. At this time, the crew is entering an observation break. We expect this to last about an hour, and it's probably a welcomed break following their very, very busy day taking pictures, making annotations, making audio recordings, and communicating all of the wonderful things that they are seeing on the moon. This observation break is also partially due to the fact that we will be entering an eclipse later. This will be the first solar eclipse.
Volvieron a encender las luces de la cabina, ya vemos la cabina un poco más clara. Aparentemente, pues, parece que ya han terminado de fotografiar la superficie lunar y están dedicados a otra serie de maniobras para el retorno a la Tierra, aunque van en trayectoria libre. Se cortó la comunicación de la cápsula y ahora se cortó definitivamente la comunicación desde la cápsula. Ahora han puesto un render de cómo fue el paso de la nave detrás de la Luna, por la cara oculta.
That number will now continue to grow, while the number of distance from Earth, 252,699 miles, will continue to shrink all the way until our crew is back home.
El regreso de los astronautas será el próximo 10 de abril, en horas de la tarde, hora de Colombia. 2 horas menos en la costa del Pacífico, frente a las costas de la ciudad de San Diego, en California. También estaremos informando ese suceso en directo.
Again, we are MET, mission elapsed time, 5 days and 58 minutes since the launch of Artemis 2. We have reestablished communications with the crew and the Orion spacecraft, now entering a little bit of a break while they are out of visibility, or the moon is out of their visibility. The spacecraft will be reoriented to view the moon ahead of an upcoming eclipse. This current attitude maneuver helps charge the solar arrays and batteries aboard Orion that will power them through the eclipse.
Integrity, Houston. In mission control, all of your flight controllers and your flight director have flipped their Artemis 2 patches around. We are earthbound and ready to bring you home.
That's great. Great to see the light of day as we head back to
A very special moment just now in mission control. Ahead of the crew's flight to Kennedy Space Center and during one of their last sims or simulations here, they visited the mission control team in Artemis Mission Control in Houston and brought us each a patch. Everyone in the flight control room has had these on their signifiers at their console. On one side of the patch that you've probably seen is the moon with the Earth behind it. Now that we've passed behind the moon and we are returning home, the flight control team has instructed everyone in the room to switch their patch around so that the Earth is closer and the moon is behind us. We are really looking forward to seeing the Artemis 2 crew, and the Capcom Jenny Gibbons did call that update up to the crew that the flight control team here has turned their patches around as was instructed by the crew during that last sim, and we are counting down the days until they get home. They are now 5 days, 1 hour, and 3 minutes mission elapsed time into the Artemis 2 mission.
Bueno, son 6 días de misión. La comunicadora de vuelo estaba indicando allí que todos los controladores de NASA tenían ese parche, esa calcomanía en sus vestimentas, y ahora que dieron la vuelta detrás de la Luna la voltearon ese parche, lo pusieron boca abajo, boca arriba, ya simbolizando que están de regreso a la Tierra. Antes lo tenían lo contrario, lo tenían hacia abajo, al revés, y ahora que ya han dado la vuelta detrás de la Luna, lo han puesto todos hacia arriba, simbolizando ese regreso. Los astronautas ya están de regreso a la Tierra, ya pasaron por su punto más cercano a la Luna y comienzan las tareas para el retorno seguro a nuestro planeta el próximo 10 de abril en horas de la tarde. Estaremos informando al respecto, evidentemente.
I win here first, then I'm going to go there after.
All right, Integrity, we hear you. That was a little clipped, but I think we have a better link now. We experienced some blockage from a solar array. We moved it, and we are in bias tail to sun.
Okay, Houston, you're coming in loud and clear, and copy, we're in bias tail to sun now.
Affirm and Integrity, just so you know, we did not hear your response once we flipped our patches. Jeremy, we heard you call down, but you were clipped, and then we briefly lost comm. Glad we're back.
Okay, copy that. We were just excited that we got to share in that you, the MER, and Mission Control flipped your patches around, and that side of the patch is getting to see the light of day. Thanks for sharing that with us.
Our pleasure.
Bien, de esta manera terminamos esta transmisión especial de la llegada de la cápsula Integrity y los astronautas alrededor de la Luna en el día de hoy. Ya los astronautas están de regreso en lo que se llama trayectoria de retorno libre y llegarán aquí a la Tierra el próximo 10 de abril. Estaremos informando. Muchas gracias.
Is a brand new console to Mission Control, and it's not every day that you get discipline incorporated into mission control. So it's been such a significant milestone for us. And it's